I want to ask you something that nobody in your professional life will ask you. When did you last feel genuinely connected? Not productive, not useful, not needed, but connected. To something bigger than yourself, to something bigger than your to-do list, to God. Because I have sat with a lot of high achieving women, women with impressive titles, full calendars, and real accomplishments. And one of the most common things I hear, often quietly, almost apologetically, is that I am doing everything right. So why do I feel so empty? And today we're talking about the hidden source number 5 of burnout. The one that's almost never named in leadership development, wellness programs, or productivity culture. Spiritual drought. Achievement without connection. Success without God at the center. And if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Dr. Catherine Muyeba, consultant psychiatrist and coach for high achieving women. In this series, we've been uncovering the hidden sources of burnout that professional women rarely talk about. We've moved from external challenges of loving someone in addiction to relational drain, normalized mental health struggles, and undiagnosed ADHD. Today, our journey is inward, and in many ways, it is the deepest one. So, what is spiritual drought? Well, spiritual drought is not the same as a crisis of faith. It's not doubt. It's not walking away. It is something quieter and in some ways more dangerous. It is a gradual drift that happens when your life becomes so full that the things which once fed your soul get quietly moved to the bottom of the list. Prayer becomes something you mean to do. Rest becomes something you prioritize next month. Community becomes something you show up for exhausted, giving what's left rather than what's true. And this happens to faithful, committed women. It is not as a character flaw. And meanwhile, the achievements keep coming. The promotions, the milestones, the things you worked so hard for, but something inside is running on empty. Because success built without God at its foundation is like a beautifully furnished house with no heating. It looks right, but it doesn't feel like home. I want to tell you about someone I'll call Melissa. Details change to protect her privacy. But her story is one I have witnessed more times than I can count. Melissa was 44 years old, an NHS consultant physician, a mother, a woman of deep faith, a Christian like me. She had grown up in the church. Faith was not peripheral to her life. It was the core of it. She came to me after what she described as a reason of just getting on with it. And for 3 years, she had been in survival mode. A difficult restructure at work, her mother's illness, her children's needs. She kept going as a woman like Kasha from the last episode always did. But somewhere in that season, the things that had previously anchored her had been quietly set aside. She still attended church. She still prayed, briefly, hurriedly, usually in the car on the way to somewhere else. But the connection she used to feel, the sense of being held, of being known, that had gone very quiet. I know God hasn't changed, she told me, but I feel like I'm talking to a wall. And she felt ashamed of that, as if her spiritual dryness was evidence of something wrong with her, rather than the natural consequence of pouring out without being replenished. Because here's the thing that I want you to understand about Melissa. She was not spiritually weak. She was spiritually depleted. And those are not the same thing. And how do you recognize this? Well, spiritual drought in high achieving women often shows up like this. You are achieving more than ever and feeling less than ever. You have stopped being able to enjoy what you worked for. The milestones arrive, and within days, it feels hollow. You feel numbness where there should be gratitude. You're going through the motions of your faith, but the intimacy, the felt sense of God's presence feels distant. You feel quietly guilty for not being more grateful, more present, more on fire. You have a vague but persistent sense that your life does not belong to you anymore, that you are living someone else's version of success. And you can't remember the last time you sat in stillness and genuinely felt at peace. And I know many women have been taught that more effort is always the answer. Well, spiritual draft often requires the opposite: less striving, more receiving. Let's just remember that. So, why does this burn you out? Here's what I've known from years of clinical practice and from coaching women who are high achieving and faith rooted. When the spiritual dimension of a woman's life is depleted, everything else has to work harder to compensate. She looks for meaning in productivity, it doesn't deliver. She looks for peace in achievement, it doesn't last. She looks for identity in her roles: professional, maternal, relational. And when those roles are challenged or threatened, she has nothing beneath them to stand on. God designed you for more than output. You were not created to produce, you were created to flourish. And flourishing requires being rooted in something that your performance cannot give you and your failures cannot take away. And the question I want to leave with you today is not, how do I fix my spiritual life? The question is, what have I been using to fill the space that only God can fill? For some women, it's busyness. For some, it's achievement. And for some, it's other people's needs. For some, it is control. And none of these are bad in themselves. But when they become substitute for genuine connection with God, with yourself, with what truly matters, they become hidden sources of exhaustion. Melissa didn't overhaul her life. She made one decision: to protect 30 minutes each morning before the world got to her. Not to be productive, not to plan, just to be present with God and herself. And from that small protected space, everything else began to reorient. Research published in the Journal of Occupational Health found that daily spiritual practice was significantly protective against burnout, depression, and anxiety, not as a nice addition to a healthy life, but as a measurable buffer against the very conditions we've been uncovering in this series. Now, this series has taken us through various hidden sources of burnout. And what I hope that you're beginning to see is that burnout is never just about doing too much. It's about carrying the wrong things in the wrong way without the right foundation. So here's what I want you to do today. Take the Busy Woman quiz. It's on my website and many of you already know about it. It takes less than 3 minutes to complete and gives you a personalized picture of where your load is actually coming from. Not where you think, but where it actually is. Because you cannot address what you haven't accurately named. And the link is in the description. Go and take it honestly without editing yourself. And when the results come through, if you read them and something in you says, this is the season I need to do something different, then book the life audit with me. We are in Q2 of the year, a new season, literally and spiritually. The life audit is a focused private session, just you and me, designed to help you to get clear on where you are right now and what you are carrying. And we also look at what needs to change so that the next season is not just productive, but genuinely fruitful. There is a difference between productive and fruitful, and I think you know it. So both links are in the description below. And next week, we'll move into our final hidden source, the financial stress that nobody knows about, that secret debt, extended family pressure, the exhausting gap between how things look and how they actually are. That one will close the loop on everything we've been building here. Subscribe so you're there for it. I'm Dr. Catherine Muyeba. You were not designed to be depleted. You were designed to flourish fully, deeply, and sustainably. And I believe this is your season for it. See you next week.